Donald Trump's attorney general is Pam Bondi. Pam Bondi is, in essence, the top law enforcement official in the country, in the sense that she leads the federal government's prosecution and non-prosecution decisions. She is endlessly lying and making assertions for which she has no evidence with regards to the disastrous, dilapidated, and disgusting deportation program of the Trump administration. Here is Pam Bondi on the Maryland father who was wrongly deported to El Salvador and insists on a lot for which they have presented not a shred of evidence.
Well, the last gang member we arrested, who was a violent murderer, was also hanging wallpaper in a place called the Villages in Florida, one of the biggest retirement places in our country. So these people are living among us. One of the big cases we had, I think you're very aware of, half an hour from where we're standing, was another violent gang member living right among us in a very, very nice residential neighborhood. Wreaths on the door next door to him, children's bicycles. So that's what these gangs do. They infiltrate our country and they live among us. So to say that he was training to be an electrician does not legitimize him from being a violent gang member.
Now remember that they have presented no evidence to back up that claim. Caroline Levitt, kooky and kaleidoscopic Caroline Levitt, has made the same assertion, but she's provided no evidence. At what point do we say, I don't even know about trust but verify, but just verify? Is there anything you can present to us that would actually support the claims that you are making? They've provided nothing yet. Do we believe these people just on their say-so?
And we will continue to fight for the safety of Americans and get these people out of our country to make America safe. Every victim of crime deserves to be safe. And these families who have lost loved ones to these, they are foreign adversaries, they are terrorists, and they are living among us no longer. And especially after that ruling yesterday, they better start self-deporting because we're coming after them.
There have been no forms of proof at all for these claims. The person with the tattoo that was misinterpreted as being a gang tattoo, which, by the way, by itself wouldn't even be enough to deport based on their own 8-point scale that we looked at. There is no evidence whatsoever. And this is all part of the sort of Trump motif, which is you never admit you got anything wrong. You double down. Bondi was asked during the same fiasco that about the investigation that found that 75% of migrants sent to El Salvador have no criminal records. Remember, they told us we will focus on criminal aliens, I think is the term they use, or do they say criminal illegals? I know it was a very dehumanizing term. And here is how Pam Bondi responds, and it's not good.
60 Minutes found that 75% of the immigrants who were sent to El Salvador do not have public criminal records. Is that true?
Do you mean in our country?
The Venezuelan migrants who were sent to...
Okay, well, they're not Venezuelan migrants. They're illegal aliens from Venezuela who should not have been in our country, who are committing the most violent crimes. So if you committed a murder in our country, we're going to keep you here, and we're going to seek the death penalty, and we're going to keep you in prison because our victims' families deserve that. But we don't have to charge them with every crime. We can deport them and get them out of our country and save room in our prisons because they should have never been in our country to begin with.
So you confirm they didn't commit a crime,
Thank
right?
you.
Is that what you're confirming?
Thanks, General Bondi.
And Attorney General, how
And off she goes. You're confirming then that, I mean, listen, you're asked about these individuals. Did they commit crimes? What crimes did they commit? And first she goes, well, are you saying they didn't commit crimes here? I guess she's sort of suggesting these may be individuals who have been charged or convicted of crimes in other countries, but she doesn't provide any evidence of that. She then says, these are folks who really are here illegally, and therefore they are subject to deportation. Fine. But that goes counter to what we were told about this deportation scheme, which is we are going to go after individuals who have committed crimes, not simply that they are here undocumented. And then she says, we can deport them without charging them for any crimes. Well, we're not disputing that. But the question is, if you're claiming they committed crimes, and then you go, do you mean in the US or in other countries? And then at the end of the day, you're asked, so did they commit crimes? And then you walk away. It is not a profile in courage. It is not a profile in consistency. And it's simply not what they told us that they were going to do. Now, I think it's very important for us on the left to acknowledge, of course, countries have a right to enforce immigration law. Of course they do. But the deportation of people who are here illegally is something that you don't need to announce militarized roundups in order to achieve. We've had visa overstays for a very long time. We've had asylum claims for a very long time that sometimes are adjudicated. We're not granting you asylum, and therefore you are now subject to deportation. Not all of that stuff is in the law already. The reason we were told we needed this extra thing, the reason we were told this is going to be a little ugly and it's going to be a little difficult, and you might see some images in the media that are not so good, as Donald Trump said, we might wrap up, there might be a mom who gets deported because she committed crimes. They said this is a different thing because too many criminal illegals have ended up in this country, and that's who we're going to be focusing on. And then now all of a sudden, it's people with no criminal record being deported to countries, in many cases, they don't even have a connection to. And Trump now starting to say, well, we might even look at doing that for American citizens, as we talked about earlier this week. This is a completely different scenario than what they said they were going to do. And of course, the reason she can't answer these questions is because there are no answers to these questions. After researching, writing, refining, The Echo Machine, my book, is finally out. This is not just a book about how American politics got so broken. It's also about what's happening right now and what we can still do to stop things from getting worse. Trump's been back in power. The results have been even more catastrophic than many feared, with targeting of political opponents and gutting democratic institutions, laying the groundwork to even further consolidate power. But the thing is that none of this is inevitable. The same forces that brought us here can be countered if we understand how they work and what to do about them. And that's what the Echo Machine is all about. Some say that without corporate media backing, books like this can't succeed. I think we can prove them wrong. You can get the Echo Machine right now at davidpakman.com/echo on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Audible, Kindle, or by calling any local bookstore and asking them to order it. This book is more important than ever. If you care about what happens next, and I do, check out the Echo Machine today at davidpakman.com/echo.